Nidra, what's been
Yes.
in France to what I call the reneging of the submarine deal with the Australians that looks like it may have been orchestrated by the Biden administration? I know that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, I would say three things. One type of reaction is, there you go, we're nowhere, we're nobody. The French have just slipped back in world influence and people can treat us any old way. Another reaction is, this is the sign, among others, that we have to get together and provide a European defense system, because this insult isn't only to France, but to Europe. And the other reaction is, you don't treat allies that way. I know that Nicolas Sarkozy, the former president, said that. And you don't treat allies this way. And this was based on developing the scenario, how that worked out, and the fact that Australia had been secretly dealing with the other partners and hid that from the French and announced it at the last minute. I chose an article for my recent weekly review in French of the English-speaking media. I chose an article that gave a lot of inside information about the Australian aspect of this, and the fact that the Australians were all mixed up with a lot of domestic considerations. Australian deputies from the southern part of the country that wanted to protect their jobs in shipbuilding, the different Australian prime ministers over the course of time between the first negotiation and the knife in the back. And most interesting thing about that was that the Australians wanted diesel electric submarines, and the French are the specialists of nuclear powered submarines. And the Australians said, no, 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 we can't handle that. So the French did a special model for them. And when they turned the French down at the last minute, they said, yes, we think that the diesel electric is not really up to par for our region. So I think that there's a lot of sort of shallow and domestic squabbling involved in this. But the French, they're selling some frigates to Greece, and I think they'll get over it and they'll pick up. But there was a lot of browbeating and saying we don't count for anything anymore. But I think they still are one of the biggest arms exporters. I'm quite appreciative.
It's in contrast to what Israel has done now for nearly 2 decades, building its own submarine fleet as part of reparations from Germany, so-called Dolphin subs. And they are almost as quiet as nuclear subs and can remain loitering at sea bottom for any length of time, and they have multiple missions in that regard.
Yes.
So good technology. A friend of mine,
one of the finest submarine constructions is coming from Japan, but they can't sell arms.
That's correct.
They have been in competitions where their submarines were the best.
Well, we'll see what happens with the new Japanese.
We'll see, right. And now the Australian submarines are going to be built in Adelaide in 2040. So
that's not going to help them defend themselves against China.
No.
So
I think to defend against China, maybe you need Japanese submarines.
We shall see. Okay. The other thing that's kind of interesting is Mr. Eric Zemmour, who basically is a Parisian-born Jew of North African Berber heritage. And there are commentators who think that he could be the French version of Trump. or the gentleman we were discussing prior to this recording, somebody I've known personally, Nigel Farage, who was the father of Brexit in England, the UK. We know how that turned out. Tell us about what the story is with Mr. Zemmour, because even though he hasn't declared, apparently he's polling somewhere between 8 and 11%.
No, 13%.
13, it's as high as 13.
I think it's as high as 13 now. There's the right-wing candidate who hasn't been declared yet. And Marine Le Pen lost 10 points in the last month. Okay, so here's one aspect of the Zemmour phenomenon. Marine Le Pen set out to demonize her party that was marked with the character of her father, that bore the trademark of her father, who was always making outrageous remarks against immigrants and against Jews. And so she said, I'm going to show that we're a normal political party. And last time she ran for president, she was saying we should get out of the EU and go back to the French franc. She is not capable of running a presidential campaign, not capable of being president. Her party is not capable of governing. This has been shown over and over again. So the first talking point that she had was against uncontrolled immigration and against political Islam. But to be demonized, she dropped that. So her voters got disoriented. And Eric Zemmour, who's a commentator, a journalist, he writes books, very intelligent man, doesn't put himself forward in public as Jewish. People who know him know that he's not, that he keeps kosher, goes to the synagogue, but he puts forward his French identity. Suddenly there was like a grassroots movement that he should be a candidate. And that brought him into the forefront and started to attract interest from the voters that normally would be for Marine Le Pen, but aren't interested in her anymore because, first of all, they know she can't win. And secondly, she dropped the issues that they like. So he suddenly started to rise. And as many commentators say, oh, we were tired of talking about COVID. Now everyone's talking about Eric Zemmour. I'll give you a funny sideline. Eric Zemmour will come out with some kind of a strange off-the-wall project. So he was saying, if immigrants want to show that they're really French, then they shouldn't give their children foreign names like Mohammed. If they want to, they could give a French name and then follow it with the other. So Muslims would, for instance, call their son Jean-Philippe Mohammed. But what Eric Zemmour seems not to know is that in the United States, Jews changed their family names to not be identified as Jews. So Zemmour is not a French name. He would have to change it to Demour to show that he really wants to be French. Just to give you an example, well, these kind of hobby horses don't go very far. The serious thing is, maybe Eric Zemmour saw a chance to influence the debate in the coming election and to make sure that two issues that are important to him, political Islam and uncontrolled immigration, would be heavily defended by any candidate that wants to win. I think on that score, he's doing well. He wouldn't win anyway. If he runs against Macron, Macron will be president. But I don't know, he doesn't have any political party. Marine Le Pen had a sort of one, but he doesn't have any political party. And zero experience. I mean, he doesn't even have experience running a commercial enterprise. He's a commentator like me, which is a very useful thing in society, but we don't know how to run countries. So that's the thing. But I'll keep you informed. We'll do this regularly up to the elections, and I'll keep you informed of how it goes. So Marine Le Pen, she says, "Oh, I'm not worried," and she looks very worried.
Good. Finally, there was a development almost to a year from the horrific beheading of Samuel Paty. And it was an announcement by the French Interior Minister, Gerald
Darminan.
Yeah. And it had several aspects to it that indicated pushback against extremist mosque leaders and news services and Black Muslim groups that were extremists as well. What was interesting to me is who should pipe up on the rejection of so-called anti-Islamophobia groups in France, but the Congress of American Islamic Relations here, which of course is a front for you-know-who, the Muslim Brotherhood here. And they said, this is a violation of human rights in France. So what are your views about the timing on this announcement, and what does it mean in terms of Macron's pushback against political Islam?
It means that that's the direction it's going, and that that's what the voters want. And they want every aspect of it to be handled. I've often written about this. Europeans, and especially Latin Europeans, they have to be free to come and go in their cities, in their streets. And the fact that this is being restricted all these years because of political Islam and its side effect it's extremely important. French people are not like Americans. French people do not go around in cars, and they wouldn't accept a life where you move to the suburbs, have some kind of gated community. When you go out in your car, you roll up the windows and lock the doors, and you go through neighborhoods that are like another planet. French people don't live that way. And in our cities, we are mixed. And in our countrysides, we are mixed. Muslims, first generation, fourth generation are all everywhere in France. And they're not only in the banlieue and not only in the slummy parts of the cities. So no one can get away with it now. They have to. This is going to be the issue of the campaign. And there, Zemmour has an influence. I would like to add something. Since our earlier part of this conversation, I've been able to read testimony, well, the newspaper accounts of testimony of survivors from the terrorist attack of November 13th, 2015.
Right.
And so this is in all our media, and it is chilling. The people that survived are totally demolished. What they experienced is so far beyond anything that a newspaper account has ever given. And this is coming within the months before the election. And this is what changed the French public opinion. Public opinion in France is far more realistic about political Islam. You don't get the cover-ups that you get in the United States. When 9/11, 13th of November in France, it's clear that this is political Islam. And the Salah Abdsalem, the only living survivor of the team that committed that series of attacks, is shouting out his mouth in court. And when a Muslim woman testified that her sister was killed. They were together on one of the cafe terraces. He said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, that was a mistake. We don't try to kill Muslims, we only kill the miscreants, the unbelievers." He dared to say that in a French court. Voilà. So this is going to go on for 9 months. And this has profoundly marked the French spirit. We said that when they started to kill Jews in France, that it wouldn't stop there. And now that just went and it affected the entire population of this country. And it has changed entirely the mind of this country and the attitude to political Islam.
Thank you for those keen observations.
And I tell you, the law enforcement people that were involved and that testify, they testify in tears. And when you read it, you cry.
Pretty gut-wrenching.